Just confirm me, am I audible and the PPT is visible? Just confirm me quickly. If everything is okay? Kindly confirm that am I audible to you and the PPT is visible. Okay, fine. Let's start our today's class. Good, okay, fine. Right, we'll start. See, in today's class, we are going to discuss some of the tropic levels. See, the most important area when it comes to the ecology. Okay. So these are all the area we can find the many questions. 1 minute. So the primary producer. Who is the primary producer? Who is the primary producer? Any idea? Who is the primary producer? Just interact with me, okay? Plants. Why it is a primary producer? Why it is a primary producer? Why it is a primary producer? Just give me a hint word. That is sufficient. Very good. Because not only photosynthesis, with process of photosynthesis and chemosynthesis, they are preparing their own food materials without depending on others. By depending on the abiotic factors, they have the capacity to synthesize their own food materials. Okay, but when it comes to this consumers, they can't directly produce the food. Okay, they has to depend on the primary producers. So this is what a difference between a producer and consumer. Okay, so you should know that. Now we know that what is a primary producer, because plants, algae and some bacteria, they has the capacity to synthesize their own food materials by the process of photosynthesis or chemosynthesis. Okay, now herbivorous. What is meant by herbivorous? Herbivorous, it is also called as the primary consumer. It is a plant eating animal. Okay, plant eaters. Okay, so those who depend on the primary producers for energy, that they are called as the herbivore, that is primary consumers. So deer, rabbit and insect which feeds on plants, so those are the primary consumer. And secondary consumer means those who depend on this herbivore or the primary consumer, they are called as the secondary consumer. So shall we call this secondary consumer as a predator? Shall we call this secondary consumer as a predator? Just say yes or no. Yes. And this is a predator, and the predator which feed on these deer, rabbit, insects, and those animals are called as a prey. Okay, for this predator. Now, tertiary consumer, those who feed on this secondary consumer are a carnivore and obtain energy from this particular secondary consumer. So, these tertiary consumer are called as a apex predator. Okay, so this is what a difference between secondary consumer and tertiary consumer. Now, who is this quaternary consumer? See, those who feed on the tertiary consumer and obtain energy from this tertiary consumer. So this is the one, this is the consumer. We are denoting them as a top predator in a complex ecosystem like orcas or humans in some food chain. So we are coming under the quaternary consumer. Okay. Now, who is the decomposer? Just tell me what is the difference between decomposer and detrivores? Just tell me the difference between decomposer and detrivores. What is the difference between decomposers and detrivores? Any idea about that? No idea, right? See, decomposers means what are all the decomposers we have studied before? Bacteria and fungi, right? Mainly, this will be acting as a bacteria. This will be act as a decomposer. Is it right? Bacteria and fungi, they are considered as a decomposers. They breaks down this dead organic matter into simpler organic materials. Okay, so they are breaking down the dead organic matter into simpler organic substances. Okay, and those nutrients from the simpler compounds that will be returned to the soil or water. That is what done by the decomposers like bacteria and fungi. But in case of a detrivorous, see, these are all the organisms which feed on the dead and organic matter. Okay, they are feed on this particular dead and decaying organic matter. So this is, see, due to this enzymatic reactions, the bacteria and fungi breaking down this organic matter into simpler organic compounds. But this detrivorous, which feed on the dead and organic matter, okay, especially it is from the dead. Okay, so this is what a minute difference between decomposers and detrivorous, right? Next, energy transfer. So, okay, do you think we have studied that primary producer is the one they has the capacity to synthesize their own food materials from this? If this primary consumer is totally dependent on this primary producer, do you think what are all the thing which is present in this particular energy, this particular producer? See, what are all the energy which is present in this particular producer? We can consider this as 100%. Okay, when this primary consumer consumes this primary producer, do you think all these 100% will be transferred from primary producer to the primary consumer? Is this statement is right or wrong? What I'm asking is, what are all the energy which is present in the primary producer? All these 100% of energy will be transferred from the primary producer to the primary consumer. Absolutely, it is a wrong statement. Why? Because when it is depending on this primary producer, at least 10% of energy. See, wait a minute. The energy flows from a primary producer to a higher tropical levels through the feeding relationships. Only about 10% of energy will be transferred between the tropic levels. Yes, Linman's rule. Very good. 10% rule. We can call like that. See, only about 10% of energy is transferred between the tropic level. That is from one tropic level to the another tropic level. Only 10% of energy has been transferring. Okay. So this is a Linman's rule. Very good. Now, energy loss. Whenever the energy is taken from one tropic level to the another tropic level, definitely there will be a loss of certain energy, and that loss will be as a heat. Okay, through the metabolic process. Whenever there have been, see, whenever we find some of the any metabolic process, for example digestion, respiration, and any activities from the brain, whatever be the metabolic process done within our body, what will be the side product? Excuse me. Whatever be the metabolic process which has been done within our body, what will be the side product which is eliminating from the body as a result of this metabolic process? What is evaporate there? Heat is getting released through all the metabolic process. Okay. The energy loss limits the number of tropic levels in an ecosystem and shapes the structure of food webs and the food chain. So whatever be the energy which has been transferring from one tropic level to the another tropic level, definitely there will be the loss of heat. Okay. Now, biomass pyramid. In the pyramid, What we can find at the base? Definitely that will be the producer. Okay, and after that, that will be the primary consumer, and after that, secondary consumer, and after that, tertiary consumer, and that will be the top consumer. Okay, so this is how the biological pyramid will look like. See, this why we have to represent the producer consumer in a graphical representation means it will be easy for us to understand when we put it in a pictorial representation. Okay, that's all. Food chain and food web. And what is the difference between a food chain and food web? Food chain means you should know that initially it was a grass, and grass will be eaten by a deer. Deer will be eaten by a lion. Okay, this is what a one food chain. Okay, and you should think that grass is not only the food source which is taken, which is used only by the deer, but it is also used by a goat. It is also used by a cow. Okay, it is also used by a rabbit. And deer is not only the food source which is taken by the lion. It is also goat is also used by lion, tiger. Okay, so these are all the things when we collectively represented one particular ecosystem, and one food source will be interlinked to the other organisms, that is comparatively called as the food web. Okay, if it is in a linear fashion, if we take only one particular food chain, that is only one food source like grass, deer, and lion. This is called as a food chain. But when we add all the organisms which feed on the grass, which feed on the deer, which feed on the lion, so that is called as a food web. So food webs, which means interconnected with each other. So this is what an important keyword you have to understand. Food chains are the linear sequences of an energy transfer. But food webs are interconnected networks. So this is what a difference between food chain and food webs. Okay. Now, once again, the same thing like, say, food chain means what? Grass, rabbit, and fox. Oh, this linear sequence will be considered as one food chain. Okay, so if we eradicate this rabbit, the fox which depend on this rabbit will also get eradicated. Okay, if we eradicate this grass, the rabbit will get eradicated automatically. Okay, and the fox which we dependent on this rabbit will also get eradicated. Okay, so this is how if one particular organism is removed from the ecosystem, the entire organisms which depend on that particular organism will also get affected. Okay, so this is what a food chain. Now, in food web, it will be a complex network of interconnected food chains. So, intermixing of food chains will be considered as a food web. So, rabbit is not only the organisms which depends on the grass, okay, but it is also a snake. Sorry, it is also a deer. Okay, so rabbit which depend on the grass, deer is also dependent on the grass, and the fox is dependent on the rabbit, wolf is dependent on the deer. So wolf is not only the organism which dependent on the deer, so it will be an interconnected food chain that will be considered as a food web. Okay, now here frog is a primary consumer or a producer. Here, the frog is taken by a snake. Snake is taken by a hawk. Now, what is this frog? Is it a primary producer or a primary consumer? Or it will be a secondary consumer? That will be a consumer. Okay. So, always green plants will be the producer. Okay. Fine. And what will be the trophic levels? Trophic levels is nothing but producer, consumer, primary consumer, secondary consumer, tertiary consumer, and top carnivore. So this is what an hierarchy. Okay. Now, primary producer, we know that that will be an autotrophs. We know that green plants and algae. And primary consumer, that will be a herbivores, those who are a plant eaters. And secondary consumer will be a carnivores, those who feed on the herbivores. Okay, and tertiary consumer will be the top predators, that is hawks and lions. And quaternary consumer will be the apex predator, like humans. Okay, now you should know that humans will be coming under the quaternary consumer. Now, what is community ecology? What is population ecology and what is ecological evolution. Community ecology means there will be a study of interaction among a species within a defined habitat or ecosystem. Just give me the order. A group of individuals, we are calling them as what? A group of group of individuals, we are calling them as what? Group of individuals in the same species. See, you should know that individuals can make up a population. Okay, that will be a community. That will be ecosystem. That will be the biosphere. Okay, so this is what a hierarchy you should know. Okay. What is okay, this is what a community, that is interaction between plants, animals, and microorganisms in a particular ecosystem. We have a different ecosystem, right? Forest ecosystem, grassland ecosystem, and many ecosystem are there. But particularly in a forest ecosystem, what will be the interaction in that particular forest ecosystem, specifically on those particular organisms? Okay, that is what a community ecology. And population ecology means certain factors which influencing the population. Okay, and like birth rate, death rate, immigration and emigration. So these are all the factors which affecting the population size. And you should know that birth rate and immigration will always leads to increase in the population. Death rate and emigration always leads to decrease in the population. Okay, so this is an important thing you have to remember. And also certain factors which influencing the population, like population size, density, distribution, and dynamics. See, now it will be 2024, and in 2025 and 26, obviously there will be an increase in population. Okay, whenever there will be an growth in year, definitely there will be a growth in population also. So studying changes in a rabbit population in a grassland in a certain ecosystem, what will be the population of certain species? Okay, and what are all the factors which is affecting this particular growth of the rabbit population? Okay, so this is what the study about this thing will be, the population ecology. And the most important area will be the ecological succession. Very, 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 very important thing. See, ecological succession means there will be a primary succession and the secondary succession. Primary succession means initially there will be a rock. Initially there will be the barren rock, and in that rock there will be a development of lichens. And from that lichens, a small organisms has been developed. And from these organisms, like plants, like herbs and shrubs, and after that a larger plants will be there, and after that a strong trees will be there. So this is how the entire ecosystem has been developed from the rock. And this primary succession will take over a period of time. Okay, when compared to the secondary succession, it takes more time, more and more years. Okay, when compared to the secondary succession. But in case of a secondary succession, there will be a presence of certain ecosystem before, and it has been damaged by certain certain environmental disaster, and after some time it will be leads to the development of that particular ecosystem. For example, initially it was a forest ecosystem. Okay, and it was damaged by a forest fire. Okay, and the entire ecosystem will be getting damaged, but it is not completely damaged. Now, what are all the seeds which is present in the soil? When when it is exposed to rain, it starts to emerge. Okay, and after that it will be leads to herbs and shrubs, and after that it will be leads to a bigger plants. So we can say like this. Okay, initially in the primary succession, it was a pioneer species. Here the pioneer species will be what? A rock. And after that, it will be an intermediate species. and after that it will be a climax species, climax community. Okay, so this is how the succession will be. So you have to note the difference between these two. See, in case of a primary succession, formation of soil is getting soil is also getting formed. Okay, is also getting formed. Okay, because there will be no ecosystem will be found in that particular environment before. It will be entire thing will be formed new, and this soil is getting formed from the rock, and the rock after some time it was seen with the lichens, and after the lichens the plants is getting emerged, and after that it will be leads to a climax community. This is how the primary succession is getting evolved. See, in case of a secondary succession, there will be a vegetation was before, there will be something before, and from that thing like that, see, it was initially a forest ecosystem, and this forest is getting affected by a forest fire, and what are all the seeds which is present in the soil, when it is exposed to with the rain, it is getting growth. Okay, this is what a secondary succession. And you should know that primary succession takes more time when compared to the secondary succession. Okay, everybody clear, right? Shall we go to the question? Everybody clear? Do you have any doubts? Quick, quick. We have only 10 minutes, I think. Everybody clear? Pioneer species will be the rock. Pioneer species will be the rock, barren rock. And sometimes we are also called this lichens because rock is considered as an abiotic factors, but they are saying that lichens is considered as a living being. So from this living thing, only the other things also getting developed. So the initial abiotic factors will be the rock. When it comes to when they are asking the pioneer species, you should choose lichens because it will be more appropriate, because from this it is a living organisms which is formed first in the primary succession. Okay. So the herbs and shrubs will be the intermediate community, and forest ecosystem will be the climax community. You can think like that. Any other? Any other clarification? Okay. We'll move to the question. What is the primary focus of community ecology? Individual species dynamics, interaction among species, population growth rates, and genetic diversity. What will be the primary focus of community ecology? Very good. That will be the interaction among the species. Okay. Now, which term describes all the interacting populations within the specific area? Which term describes all the interacting population within the specific area? Now, there will be an individual, a group of individual is called as a population. Now, they are asking which term describes all the interacting populations. Interaction between individuals is called a population, and interaction between a species in a population is called, that will be obviously a community. Very good. Now, population ecology primarily focuses on biotic factors affecting individuals, interactions between species, factors influencing population size and dynamics, abiotic factors in an ecosystem. See, this is the area you have to keep in mind. Wait. An organism. Organism, we can call them as an individual. An interaction between these group of individual of the same species is called as what? Population. And population is, a group of population will be called as a community. And a group of community will be calling as the ecosystem. And a group of ecosystem will be what? A biome. Okay? And at last, it will be the biosphere. Okay? So the answer for this question will be very good. A factor influencing population size and the dynamics. Right? And for this population size will getting affected by the birth rate and death rate, immigration and emigration. Now, which of the following is an example of a density independent factor affecting the population growth? It will be density independent factor which affects the population growth. These are all the most crucial questions when it comes to the community ecology. Density independent factor. See, always you should have an idea about density dependent and independent. Okay, density dependent will be which affects the birth rate and death rate, because of competition and predation. Okay, competition and predation will be directly, it is density dependent. Okay, if there is an increase in population, definitely there will be a competition also is getting higher. Okay, so in case of an independent density independent factor, it is affecting the birth rate and death rate like abiotic factors. Okay, like what forest fire, any disaster, natural calamity like that. So it will be drought. It will be a natural calamity. Definitely, if a particular ecosystem is affected by a drought, the entire organism is getting affected, right? So this will be the correct, more appropriate answer. Very good. Now, ecological succession involves. What is ecological succession? Whether there will be a sudden change in a climate, whether there will be gradual changes in a species composition over time, random fluctuations in population size, introduction of invasive species. Definitely, there will be a gradual change in a species composition over time. Right? Very good. Now, which type of succession occurs on a bare rock or in areas devoid of soil? Definitely, that will be a primary succession. Okay. From the barren rock or soil, lichens is getting evolved. And from the lichens, other organisms, and finally it leads to a climax community, and this is called as a stable community. Okay. And intermediate community is called as a sterile community. Okay. Now, pioneer species in the primary succession are typically large predators, slow growing trees, drought resistant plants, early colonizers like lichens and mosses. Hope you are getting the answer from this question. There is pioneer species. And lichens is an interaction between which two organisms? It is an interaction between which organism and which organism? Lichens means what? Yeah, it is an intermediate between algae and fungi. Okay. So the answer will be option D. Which a factor in is crucial in determining the climax community in ecological succession? Which factor is very crucial in determining the climax community in ecological succession? Whether it will be the temperature, precipitation, soil fertility, and biotic interactions. That will be a biotic interaction. Very good. Which type of succession occurs after a disturbances leaves the soil intact? Which leaves the soil intact, and what are all the seeds present in the soil when it exposed to rain and it will get into, it starts to emerge. And what is that succession? Yeah, that will be the secondary succession. Very good. What role do decomposers play in ecological succession? What role do decomposers play in ecological succession? They prevent a new species from colonizing. They breaking down or organic matter, releasing nutrients for other organisms. They compete with the pioneer species. They reduce the soil fertility. Whether they are reducing the soil fertility or increasing the soil fertility, whether they are reducing the soil fertility or increasing the soil fertility. Give me an answer. So the answer for this question will be breaking down organic matter, which releases nutrients for other organisms. Very good. Definitely, they are also increasing the soil fertility. Okay. This organic matters, which is not only taken by other organisms, it also taken by a soil also. Okay. Now, which of these is an abiotic factor that can influence population distribution? Which is an abiotic factor influences a population distribution, predation, competition, temperature, mutualism. That will be a temperature. Very good. Mutualism is an example of mutualism is there. Parasitism, commensalism, amensalism. Kindly go through the meaning of all these words. Okay. Mutualism means both the organisms are getting benefited. Okay. In commensalism is one is getting benefited, one is neither benefited nor getting harmed. But in case of amensalism, one organism is getting affected, the other organism is not getting affected, is not getting harmed. Okay. And the competition means we know that if it is considered as a survival of the fittest organisms, it will survive. Okay, those who has a capacity to compete with the other organism that will survive in that particular area, other will eradicate automatically. That is what a competition is. Predation means we know that one will be acting as a prey, and those who feed on this prey will be act as a predator. And in case of a parasitism means was one is getting affected, one is getting harmed. Right? Everybody clear? That's all. This is what a symbiotic association. Now, this mutualism is an example of symbiosis. Everything will be the symbiotic relationship. Okay. These are all will be the types of a symbiotic relationship. Now, Which term describes a maximum population size an environment can sustain indefinitely? Maximum population size. This will be the hint word you can easily answer. Here, an environment can sustain indefinitely. And that will be the correct word. That will be obviously the maximum carrying capacity, and it will be denoted using K. Okay. Which of the following is a density dependent factor that can regulate the population size? Which of the following is a density dependent factor that can regulate a population size? Very good. This is what a good analysis. And the answer will be competition for resources. Okay. So, see, competition is not only for the food, it also for a place. Okay. To occupy that particular space, also they compete between themselves. Okay. Which ecological concept refers to process where different species compete for limited resources? See, there will be a lot of organisms is there, but the food is only limited. And here all the organisms will compete for this limited food. And from this, which ecological concept is emerged? Very good. That will be competition exclusion principle. Okay. When two species compete for a same limited resource, cannot coexist indefinitely in the same niche. One has to be excluded from that particular environment. Okay. That is what a competitive exclusion is. And keystone species is crucial in an environment because they compete with other organisms for resources, control population size for other species, or the largest predators in the food web, or the most abundant species in the community. See, this is what a keyword, the most abundant species, largest predators, control the population size, compete with other species. Very good. That is the one controlling the population size. See, this is not a most abundant species. Okay. If predators are present, if 10 predators is present, this keystone species will be present as 1. Okay. This is what a ratio. This is not a most abundant species. And it is not the largest predators and all, but based on this keystone species, there are other organisms are surviving. Okay. For example, if a tiger or lion, if a lion will hunt the deer, okay, this lion is not only the animal which is completely going to feed on this deer. Okay. So after the remains which was after, see, if this deer is not eaten completely by the lion, so there will be certain remains, and that remains will be eaten by the other organisms in the same ecosystem. Okay, so this is the one which controlling the population size of the other species. Okay, the most important thing related to the keystone species. Okay, remaining questions kindly solve on it your own. Any doubts? Do you have any doubts? You can ask me now, or else we'll just leave the class. Any doubts? Quick, quick. We have less than 1 minute. Class will automatically get shut down. Share the video. Video will be uploaded in the YouTube, correct? So for tomorrow, your topic will be Environmental pollution